self-sufficiency, right? Yeah. Great. Oh, self-determination. Perfect. Thanks. So, there we go. Oh boy. Mm. Boy, Eva Doyle's energy is amazing. I don't know how old she is. I can't remember, but I know she's way up there. Definitely. Mm. Well, if Noah wants to hear some of it, say Victor's. It's also or something. Yes. Good. Just snatch the hand. Oh, okay. So Jim is in the waiting room.
There he is.
Yep. Great.
Good old Jim.
Wonderful. And hi. Great job. Yes.
Hey.
You did it. You did it. By the way, you got quoted all over the place for your.
I haven't seen the paper today at all.
It was you were quoted in the Buffalo News. You were quoted in the Investigative Post, and you were quoted in Our City, Buffalo, when they talked about the session last night, which I did bring it up in the last thing that we just did. So Richard is here. Richard, of course you know Jim. Jim. Yeah. Although I haven't gotten to get you into the studio for a whole double header in forever, so we'll have to do that sometime. Maybe after I come back from vacation.
Cool. Yeah, that should work for me too. And I'm hoping
now,
clear stuff.
You're hoping what?
I'm hoping to clear some stuff off of the plate.
Yes.
I'm hoping to make some room.
Now, when are you going to or did you already go?
No, I'm in August from August. I'm due there August 1st through the 13th.
Right.
To Lake Tahoe.
Lake Tahoe. That is so exciting. No, I've never been. Lake Tahoe.
I've never been. I only heard about it in the movies, but
right, me too.
I plan to really do what we do. I mean, even on vacation, I think sometimes it opens up greater opportunities to mingle with folks and see where they're at, their temperature on some of the issues at large. And so I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I bet.
Continue connecting of the dots. We're in a very crucial moment now. The issues that we're confronted with have always been here for.
Oh, he's here. Yeah.
There you go.
Yep. Just. Hi.
Hey there.
Hi, Hassan. So as soon as I texted you, then I just saw that you had just come into the Zoom room. So Richard is just letting you in, or just let you in. So Richard is our producer. You'll see him, or actually, you maybe already can see him.
Not on camera yet. I can see. Hey, Hassan, it's Jim.
And Jim, I was just going to say, Jim is already on too.
Welcome, man.
Hey, long time.
I know.
But always in the swing of things. You know your camera's not on.
Oh, should I turn my camera
Yes,
on?
please. Yep, that would be the next thing I was going to ask you. Yep. Thank you. Yeah, because it's a video radio show. So it is a radio show, and it will get aired on WBNY, but it's also going to go out on Facebook Live tonight. And then also we'll put the video on the Western New York Peace Center YouTube channel. So anyway, so now you can see Richard, Hassan, Richard, and of course Jim. You know Jim very well from all the different times. Back when we used to get to Washington more often, that's what I'd call it. I guess some people are going back now. I haven't been back though.
Indeed. Yeah. And you can catch him when he's doing his music.
That's what I want to do. You had your guitar, but you didn't get a chance to play the last time I was there. I thought of asking you to play on the show.
Maybe, yeah. Maybe next time. I would love that.
Yeah, that would be. I have to check it out because the thing that we're doing for WBNY, it's All Talk Mondays. So I always feel like, oh, well, that's what they want, And I love music. I actually play myself as well. Yeah.
You know who's here with me right now?
What?
At my house is Kate Alexander.
Is she really? How great.
tell Kate
Wow. She
do a
can
little
join. If she wants to come on, she could.
She's downstairs with the dog. We did some grilling.
Oh, okay. Well, it's too much fun. I don't think we can compete with a dog, but
That's right. Y'all neighbors. That's right.
oh,
Yeah, she's my new neighbor.
oh, really? Wow, I should have known that. Wow, that is great. That is super. Wonderful. Well, it's a small world, but I wouldn't want to paint it. Anyway, so we have a basic run of show. It's pretty simple. And I just do the regular, sort of thanking the different places that were, that are making it happen. Then a little mini land acknowledgement in Ganonio, and then I'll introduce both of you, and then we'll go into the program more into the values, and then I just thought because it's self-determination, because the 4th of July, because this is going to air on WBNY on the 4th of July. So I thought that might be, something, a way of talking about it, to bring in that piece of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, so it'll just be, that. We can talk about the War Powers Act, although for Western New York, I don't think there's a lot we can do there. I mean, now that Higgins is on, I don't think there's any other real, I guess we could work on, but I'm not very helpful with Jacobs or anybody.
Yeah.
Okay, Vicki, tell me when you want to go on the air.
Oh, okay. Well, okay, so does everybody have what you need? Have you turned off your phones or have some water, anything like that?
I'm good. This is going to run for 30 minutes, is that correct?
No, it's an hour. It's just under an hour, and we will strictly be under an hour. They won't go over, but it is an hour, up to an hour show. So, okay, well, I hope we'll try and make it fun, too, even if you're not making music. But anyway, okay, well, thanks to both of you. So, yeah, Richard, I'm ready.
Okay.
If you're, okay, so there goes the switch.
Light is on.
It is
Clock is going.
everything.
Put the clapper in front of your face. When you hit the clapper, you're on the air.
Thanks. Welcome to Talking Peace with the Western New York Peace Center, being produced here at Think Twice Radio in the home of the future. Also, the home of our friend and producer Richard Wicca. Thanks, Richard. And thank you too to our friends at WBNY, Buffalo's original alternative radio station, airing on 91.3 FM out of Buff State. So thank you, our friends at Buff State. And thinking of thankfulness, I think of our indigenous friends for whom I'm very thankful. I think of the fact that we are on stolen indigenous land here in western New York, on Haudenosaunee land, specifically Seneca, for right here in Buffalo, and for all over the nation. That our indigenous friends were through violence and trickery just pushed on smaller and smaller parcels, and yet they still, in spite of attempted genocide, they still are just as thankful, full of thankfulness and full of focusing on that thankfulness, so that when they have an event, it is always a time for remembering the people who come there, Mother Earth, and all of the creation, the plants and creatures and all of the elements, and the Creator that all makes it all possible. So that we should all follow our original instructions so that life can continue in this creation. And thinking to the seventh generation. So we try to think of that. And so I would just say Nyahweh, and you could say Nyo. That's what the people respond. Nyo. It's sort of Ashe. It's kind of like Ashe or
No.
Nyo. Thanks. Thank you, and thank you for coming on. Thank you for coming to this special session where we're going to be thinking of the 4th of July a little bit, and especially in terms of our friends, talk about friends, our beloved friends in Yemen, or our beloved friends from Yemen. And for that, we have a very special couple of people here who can help us learn and hopefully make some advances in this issue, in our knowledge, and then in actual progress for the people of Yemen. So as the Haudenosaunee go counterclockwise, I'll first introduce Jim Anderson, friend of the show, who's on the Peace Action Board, who is the president of Peace Action New York State and vice president at Citizen Action. Welcome, Jim.
Hey, glad to be here.
And a special welcome to Hassan El-Tayyib, who's coming from D.C. In spite of his very, very busy schedule, is squeezing us in to talk about a lot of things that he's working on, but especially about Yemen, that he's so knowledgeable on. So, Hassan, welcome.
Thanks so much for having me. Really appreciate it.
Oh, we really appreciate you, and you really, you know so much, and you're doing so much about Yemen, especially as I should have said, as legislative director for the Middle East, and that is the entire Middle East, for the Friends Committee on National Legislation. And you all do such a fantastic job, and you in particular are just right on top of things. So we're just grateful that we'll be right on top of things by the end of the show. So thanks for coming on.
She made it.
Yes. So now the first thing, you're seeing behind the is that
yeah.
Kate? Is that Kate Alexander? Hey, Kate.
She's here.
She's there.
Hey, Jim.
You're fuzzy.
Oh, God. Hey,
You're fuzzy.
Vicky.
Now you're not. Now you're not. Hi.
Okay.
Hi.
Hey, how are you?
Yeah.
All right.
Yes. Great to see you.
Yeah, good to see you both too. Oh my gosh, has it ever been a minute?
Yeah, it's a small world, but yeah, I was just saying, but I wouldn't want to paint
And
it.
by the way, this is a treat because, we have Hassan, who is a master on this subject.
Yes.
But we have two masters right here. I'm going to co-pilot with you. Go. Okay.
Feel
So-
like I should.
So Kate, if you want to, now what's your job function again now? Your new job?
All right. Sorry. And to be clear, this is we're being recorded now.
This is being recorded now.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it is.
Hi, I'm Kate Alexander. I'm the Policy and Campaigns Officer at Madre, a global feminist fund and women's rights organization with partners in Yemen. And I'm also on the board of Peace Action
really?
Fund of New York State.
Of course you are. Yes, you are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we don't outnumber. I mean, the friends do an awful lot too. So, and we need all of us, and we're still outnumbered by the But we're outnumbering. We're the ones who outnumber. It's just that some people have a little more resources and a little more on the levers of power. So anyway, so the next thing that we like to do is just a little reminder for, thank you for popping in, Kate. It's great to see you. Is to think about our values, the values we want to uphold in this conversation. And I would say, in our work in general. Oh, I didn't introduce myself, that I'm Vicki Ross. I'm the board chair at the Western New York Peace Center now. But anyway, and privileged to be on this show with you two. So if we could just talk, just if you want to uphold a value or two in this conversation that you think is important. So as we talk about Yemen and the Middle East and our legislative issues here in our issues in this country on that topic. So Jim, any value you want to mention?
In talking about this particular subject today, the value that I would put forth is care.
Mm-hmm.
Care about humanity. Mm-hmm. And understand that humanity means more than what we call our immediate family, humanity. Mm-hmm. Because the issues that affect the world could be, I want to say, resolved when people start caring. Because it's more than just, can I borrow a cup of sugar from a neighbor? It's right. About ensure that justice is delivered. And that in the nation where we're at, I think the value, if we're going to be a caring country, and if we're going to be supportive mm-hmm. of humanity, then we can't allow this status of war that is going on to continue. And we can't allow what is the wrong kind of action and diplomacy that's going on around the world that the U.S. is involved in. And that's is military engagement, not by authorization, not by real authorization, not because we have war, but it's run amok. So if we care about humanity, we will do something about it. And I think we're at that must do something about it time, because we need to understand that our caring about the other parts of humanity is caring about ourselves also. There are consequences for our action. And I think we can forestall the worst of the actions that can come from this behavior by working hard to really create what the UN calls for, a culture of peace. But you got to put your arms down. You got to stop killing people. And with the particular topic of the night, we got to stop starving people. I'll stop there because I know as we go along, we're going to get a little more, but that's my value.
Right. Thank you. That's a very important one. And Hassan?
Thank you so much for this conversation, this really important moment. We'll get into why this is such an important moment for Yemen in a moment. My value that I would share tonight is responsibility. As U.S. taxpayers, we are supporting the Saudi-led coalition with weapon sales, intelligence sharing, logistics support, spare parts, maintenance for all of these airstrikes that are causing this, humanitarian suffering, causing people in Yemen to, starve to death, go hungry, not get the medicines that they need to care for the loved ones that they have. And this is a man-made humanitarian crisis. This is really a U.S.-backed Saudi humanitarian crisis that we have the power to end through urgent action, through urgent legislation that's live right now. There's a lot of terrible things in the world happening, right here in our own backyard. Climate change, war in Ukraine, so many things. But Yemen is something that we have the power to control. This is something that we can do. It's an achievable objective and something that I want the listeners here to feel empowered to take action on. So that's my word, responsibility.
Absolutely. Responsibility. So critical. Well, I'm a little torn because I'll say truth and love, unarmed truth and unconditional love, which is what Dr. King talks about, that will have the final word in reality. So they're going to say the truth of all the things that you just started, telling about what's going on in Yemen. We'll talk about the truth of that and the love. But the really what I want to say too is self-determination and a culture of peace. So that self-determination, we're talking about the 4th of July, we're talking about people have the right and the responsibility to approach our government for the redress of grievances, and the grievances include our human family all around the globe. So, and they should have their self-determination and their culture of peace, because the people there want peace, and they're being bombarded, they're being starved, they're being so truth and love and self-determination and a culture of peace. So on that note, so Hassan, if you could bring us up to speed on what's going on legislatively and what needs to happen, and with full kudos to our resident, certainly for right here, is the resident Congressperson Brian Higgins, who signed on.
Absolutely. Well, I think briefly, folks may know about the war in Yemen, but it's a conflict that's been going on for over 7 years. It started in 2015, and with U.S. military support from the United States, the United Kingdom, France, Canada, etc., the Saudi-led coalition, mostly Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates, have been fighting a war in Yemen to try to oust the Houthis from power. The Houthis, ousted the former President Hadi from power. He left. Right. And so what's devolved is just a massive, conflict that's created the world's worst humanitarian crisis. We've got 20% of 20 million people are living in food insecurity and depend on humanitarian aid for survival. 16 million people on the edge of famine. Over 3 million children suffering from acute malnutrition. This is a horrible, horrible crisis that's made worse by things like the war in Ukraine. Right. There has been actual good news in Yemen, though. At the 11th hour, the parties of Yemen, the warring parties in Yemen, agreed to extend a Ramadan truce, which, again, is an extremely positive development. Some people have said, okay, we're not sure why they agreed, but a recent introduction of a Yemen War Powers resolution, I think, can be easily viewed as a critical factor in the extension of the truce. And I think to make the peace permanent, Congress has to pass a resolution just to ensure that there's going to be no U.S. military support, which is essential for these Saudi airstrikes. No more support for Saudi's brutal campaign. And so I think this is absolutely critical. But as Congress is considering finally using its leverage, Joe Biden, I think, is looking like he might give up some of his. And he promised in the past to make Saudi Arabia Arabia a pariah.
Right.
He said he was going to end military support for offensive operations in Yemen. We've learned that there are still critical components of U.S. support that enable these airstrikes, including logistics, spare parts, maintenance, certain intelligence cooperation. So, very troubling indeed. He's about to head to Saudi Arabia and the Middle East more broadly to, try to solidify a security arrangement with, all of these Gulf states. Trying to create this, I would say, like a war pact with all of these different Arab countries and Israel to oppose Iranian aggression. But unfortunately, it doesn't get at the root causes of why there's instability in the Middle East. If you really want peace in the Middle East, you have to address things like the Iran nuclear deal. Get back into the deal.
Right.
You have to end the war in Yemen. Make sure there's no more, airstrikes. They've made some progress there, but let's finally, not just, a 2-month truce. We need a permanent deal that lifts the blockade. And even with this truce, the humanitarian crisis is incredible and horrible. And we also have to resolve the issue with the Palestinians,
Right.
And make sure that their voices are heard, that they have right to self-determination, safety, and so. Again, just signing like a massive weapons deal and guarantees to all of these countries without actually drilling into the core issues, I think is a huge issue. So that's why we think, having Congress, bring this resolution up. The bill number is HJ Res 87. It was introduced in, I think just a couple weeks ago, really. By Reps Jayapal, DeFazio, Schiff, and Mace. We've got over 100 bipartisan co-sponsors in the House. Absolutely incredible. It's also been endorsed by over 100 national organizations, including Peace Action, Friends Committee on National Legislation, but we've got other folks like J Street, Move On, Concerned Vets. We've got all the way from the Raging Grannies all the way to the Koch Institute, it's quite, Yemeni allies and veterans coming together, everybody coming together to try to end this war. So I'm very excited that, that we've got all this momentum. Senator Sanders has plans to introduce a companion resolution in the House. In the Senate, that's based on the House resolution. Mm-hmm. So we're hopefully going to see that in the coming weeks. And again, let's increase the pressure. So Yemen is at the forefront of any conversation with Saudi Arabia, and that we make sure ending the Yemen war is a top priority for the Biden administration.
So we should be contacting President Biden then? Is that... tweeting at him or other things like that?
All of the above. I would urge that people continue to build support for HJ Res 87. Mm-hmm. I know you've got some members of Congress in New York State that have already endorsed. They should be thanked profusely and asked to amplify their support of that resolution. And then if they already support it, you should ask them, well, who else do you know? Who else are you friends with? Who are you getting lunch with next week? And maybe you could bring up Yemen WPR. WPR stands for War Powers Resolution.
Right.
Bring that up in conversations with colleagues and House leadership. AOC is on the bill. We really need to focus on getting Chairman Meeks on board. He's the House Foreign Affairs Committee chairman. He's yet to co-sponsor. And he's voted on similar legislation as recently as last year. So it's really, we got to make sure that he gets on. So New York State, please help us get Chairman Meeks on this resolution. Also, don't be afraid to give Senator Schumer a call or Senator Gillibrand. They need to get on this bill too.
Absolutely. I was thinking that. Now, as I was saying, Congressman Brian Higgins, who is the congressperson for Buffalo, he is a co-sponsor. So we're grateful. We're very grateful for that. And as I think quite rightly it was said, like, how did we get so many so quickly? And I think it was all the work that has been done over and over for the past years to try to get them to stop this madness. And I want to bring, into it, you're talking about he's over there, Biden is over there orchestrating this security arrangement, which says to me, back to war is a racket, cha-ching. So, what do you both think? And I'll go to Jim. You were starting to talk about it, about the money and the arms. What are? Yeah, go on. Yeah.
Now, as Hassan was saying, this could end. And, while we're calling our Congress people, we the people need to really not only raise our voice, but learn more about this issue. For instance, it's one thing to tell them with a call, with a letter,
right,
to stop it, but people need to understand it's important that they keep their sound bites going. They need to be saying it every day until it ends. Here's why. The very money that is needed for the human needs here in this country is being spent
right
on war
absolutely.
and not even toys. And with what President Biden is over there doing is undermining the integrity of this country. We had taken a position not to support Saudis because of their negative behavior.
Right.
But because of this gas situation, we're seeing how quickly those in the establishment are prepared to sell us off for political gain. Gas is important. But what President Biden is doing now is basically kissing that guy's foot. Mm-hmm. We're trading off to get some
nicely.
The lives of people who are starving now more than 7 years.
Right.
But since 2015, the Saudis have been doing blocking any entrance of food, medical supplies, things that could help the people. The plea has been going on in their murder of the one of the news persons. I won't go off on that track. But what I want to say, after we took a position, after our government took a position and noted the negative behavior and stopped supporting them, now all of a sudden we're over there trying to do business. What's wrong with this picture?
Right.
I'll tell you what's wrong with it. The behavior of the president and the Congress not roaring loud enough. And I'll tell you what, we the people, we should be very outraged because all of this is happening in our name. We say we don't like to see these tragedies. We look at the shootings that are going on around the country. What do people think is happening every day in those countries?
Right.
What we worry about waking, I hear people all the time, oh, it's terrible. And yes, these incidences are terrible that is happening right here, even in our own city. Well, this is our first time for Buffalo. And yes, we have far too many in the nation. But if you consider all of the destruction and the terrorist behavior that has been going on against the people of Yemen,
right?
How are we going to? It's not enough for us to be so narrow-sighted and not caring enough. Our caring has to be beyond verbiage. See, peace action and Hassan, you know it. This is our slogan. Peace demands action.
Right.
And it's more than words. The words are there, but going to the offices, sharing the information with neighbors, showing up in mass, together in front of media, saying demand, making it a demand. We haven't done that. We walk in too softly, too slowly, and too unaware. This should be understanding right now as we look at the circumstances of the world and the political things that are going on. The people need to rise up for peace.
Right.
They need to rise up, as Hassan said, in being responsible. And I'll say again, we need to show we care. Right. We haven't shown.
Right.
So stop there now and let you continue on.
And Hassan?
Forgive me. What was the question again?
Well, no, just I was just talking about the economics of it, and especially with Biden going over there to Saudi, right to the Middle East right now.
Absolutely. So I wanted to mention a couple things. So one, if we think about this oil question, I do think that the trip to the Middle East that Biden is preparing to have, to take, they say it's about oil, and it's about oil, but there is something larger brewing here. It's like a kind of a reorganization of all of these Gulf Cooperation Council states trying to, do Abraham Accords 2.0, with Israel. Basically, trying to do these security agreements to counter Iran's influence in the Middle East. And I think we have to, one, look at what is actual U.S. interests. To me, U.S. interest means a stable Middle East, and nothing in this deal addresses root causes of what's going on. And it's just going to drag the U.S. further into potential escalation and conflict with countries like Iran. But I think if we pulled back and stop trying to be a regional hegemon, or a global hegemon for that matter, we can turn things around and actually encourage these countries to cooperate with each other out of a need. They would have to at that point. But if they get unilateral blank check military support, and the U.S. is going to rush in there with all of our tanks, airplanes, bombs, troops, putting U.S. service members in harm's way, then I don't think they're going to have the incentive really to do the diplomacy needed to actually stabilize the region. So that's huge, how we define national security, how we define what the U.S. role in the Middle East should be. I've also heard that, you get Saudi Arabia to pump more fuel in the short term, medium term. That's probably not going to impact oil prices all that much anyway. So even if you agree with that logic, what needs to happen, and it's not something we're probably going to get too much into today, but we need to come up with a path for diplomacy to end the war in Ukraine. I mean, that is absolutely essential. I don't think Saudi Arabia on its own can pump enough oil to bring oil prices down to a level. And I know that there's a lot of families in the U.S. that are really hurting right now because of this shortage. It's causing food to go up here. It's causing all of these things. And I hope that this can, as we're grappling with all these challenges, it can make us empathetic to the kind of struggles that are happening in Yemen and that have been happening in Yemen. Food prices are insanely high in Yemen. Food, fuel, medicine, all of this stuff is very scarce because of these supply chain shortages that we really we started learning a lot about during this pandemic. As far as the economics of weapon sales, that's really who's going to profit. That doesn't really benefit the American people. It doesn't really create all that many jobs, but it does line the pockets of a lot of wealthy CEOs of weapons contractors. And so again, that's not really a sustainable model for an economy. I mean, if anything, this has taught us that we need to get off of this addiction to the war economy. We need to get off our addiction to fossil fuels, and do so much. And I know people out there are probably thinking, man, so many issues. We gotta, I just watched Cassidy Hutchinson on TV tell about how Trump was trying to choke his Secret Service driver to help go engage in the coup and coup attempt on the Capitol. We've got runaway climate change, all this stuff, and man, what do you even do with that? But I know there's so many different thoughts, and I think we all have to do what we can. Take care of yourself, but know that if you're chipping away at one piece of this blanket that's completely interwoven, all of these pieces are connected. If you're chipping away at one piece of this, which is, U.S. military aid to the Saudi war in Yemen, you are chipping away at a quilt of oppression that's covering this whole planet right now, and a really important piece of the puzzle. And let's build power as the peace movement, mature our peace movement, so then we have this larger contribution to make to the greater struggle against these forces of oppression and the oppressors that are really consolidating and uniting right now. So So let's help in the short term as the peace movement to bring an end to this war in Yemen, and then let's figure out what to do next. And I'm looking forward to being on that journey with you all.
It's the trip. For sure, it's the right trip. And you're right. The work of the people is much, but it's also in how they see it. I think that it's almost a form. I call it a form of excusiology when people are like, "Oh, it's just too much." Look, if you want to survive and have a world to survive in, and survive with being responsible how you treat other humans on the planet, then you must engage on this issue. The issue of the money. Look, Representative Ro Khanna said it best. He said if we were to stop the weapons sale and everything else we're doing with Saudi Arabia, right, then that would change their behavior. Now, it may not change it immediately, but it wouldn't take us deeper in the rabbit hole with what we're doing now, because the president over there is cutting a deal that is not healthy for America, and it's quite shameful. And we, the people who haven't been paying attention, I feel for you, because I know we're a nation of people who feel like some of this stuff is over their head. But we should have a reality with what we're seeing in the news, hearing on a daily basis that says, no, I need to look into this. And they need to look no further than if they're already in that part where they don't have enough money for health care, enough money for education, enough money for housing, enough money for the infrastructures of their city. If they want to know where the money has gone, it has gone to these wartards and to these other misfit deals that wind up the cash they get back. Don't come back to we the people. It go to the greedy interests of the defense contractors. And I would dare say that some of the funds we spend over there get intercepted by them.
Well,
we've done so much to underdeveloped countries around the world, and then we send in contractors like they're going to go there and help fix it up. No, they're just shortstop. They prevent the funds from getting where they need to go. The people of those nations know what they need, and they have leaders. They have leaders that they respect, and I believe they will follow. We should trust the people and stop what we're doing now. We have to stop. I mean, there's financial, but more than that, the human cost is just too much. You can't care about the lives lost in any tragedy that happens in this nation and not care about lives that are lost in other nations because of our backing. We give the bomb and the equipment that the Saudis are using, and we know they're using them. Otherwise, why would they keep buying more and more weapons?
So I think in some ways, it's so complicated, and yet it is so simple. Because, as you say, it's all it's like one blanket of oppression, but it is intimately connected through both the principle of violence or nonviolence. Are we trying to be the change? When we're over there making more, our defense agreements and things like that are against people, instead of working to be a peacemaker, which is what we want to try and do, just as you're both saying. Using the UN, creating a culture of peace is not getting everybody to be like, oh yeah, we're gonna defend ourselves against those ones over there. It's inviting everybody to the table and finding a way through communication, cooperation. We actually have a camp coming up, and let me tell you, what we'll talk with about the kids is about that kind of peaceful conflict resolution that is right up there with people having their right to their own, self-determination and their right to life. A life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, all the things that are embedded in the Constitution, the principles that have not been acted upon, that were not, being recognized through the stealing of indigenous land or through the enslavement of peoples. all of that hypocrisy was in there, yes. But the founding principles, if we talk about, that freedom and that life and liberty that people should all have, then we want to promote that worldwide by having arms agreements, and arming other people is not doing that. And back to the opportunity cost of all the money, that's the other unifying element. Is that so much money, when you look at the amount of money, sometimes I call it Fear Inc. That Fear Inc. is all the money that is all the efforts to intimidate, control, incarcerate, or even kill people. So they get the money by the truckloads. They get the money that they can lose $1 billion, and people say, oh, rounding error or something. But for so many people, it's as Eisenhower said, a theft from every hungry family. All the money that goes into munitions and into aid. So we say we're giving aid, but the aid we're giving a lot of times is armaments, not actual help for the people. But so if we, so for Yemen, you said, so we can ask like Congressman Higgins to approach some of his other allies and friends in Congress, and we can go to Senator Schumer and Senator Gillibrand, talk to them about supporting it. Maybe even have some events or something. To really focus their attention on it outside their office or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. If I could,
Please.
So this new Yemen War Powers Resolution invokes Congress's constitutional war powers under the War Powers Act of 1973 to end unauthorized U.S. military participation in the Saudi-led war. And if passed, the resolution would prohibit U.S. military, these officials from providing intel sharing for these offensive operations, logistical support, maintenance, spare parts. So this is all in this one bill. We would shut down the war in Yemen overnight if we passed this. When we pass this. Positive thinking here. And we've got,
Right.
I'm feeling bullish on this bill. I mean, we got over 100 co-sponsors in just a
Right.
couple weeks here. This is pretty,
Right.
and it's not just, super progressive folks. We've got Republicans, frontline Democrats,
Right.
folks on the relevant committees, about a dozen people on the House Foreign Affairs Committee. So we've got a lot of momentum here. So if folks are listening at home or on their commute, I guess this is going to be the 4th of July. I want you to pick up the phone or write this number down, 1-833-STOP-WAR. And if you're on Facebook Live, you can, this isn't the 4th of July. This is today. This is Wednesday, June 29th.
Right.
You can call either day. It's all good. It's going to go to their voicemail. So 1-833-STOP-WAR. We've set up this hotline where folks can just call their member of Congress. So that's one really easy step you can
Sure.
take. If you want to, go one step further, I would urge that people, try to set up a meeting with their member of Congress, with their senators, Senator Schumer, Senator Gillibrand. They want to hear from you. They want to know that they've got support to take this action. And let's see if they can be original co-sponsors on the Yemen War Powers Resolution that Bernie Sanders, the senator from Vermont, one of my favorites, is planning to introduce. So I think those would be all great. Now, if you know Rep. Higgins and want to get him to do more, then yes, I think that's a great call. See if he's got more that he can do on this. If he's got connections with other people in the New York delegation that he can reach out to, or other committees or caucuses he's on, and let's just keep the drumbeat going. And I just really appreciate all the stuff that Peace Action New York State and all of these great orgs all over the state have been doing on this already. So huge props to you, Vicky, to you, Jim, for your tireless dedication on this issue.
Well, I need to say that also, for those who don't know, the Western New York Peace Center is a peace action group, just by the way. So we're in that umbrella under Peace Action New York State, which is why Emily Rubino, our fearless executive director, was telling us that there's going to be, these lobby days. And I would just encourage anybody who's listening who wants to be involved in that to find us at the Western New York Peace Center. Go to wnypeace.org and tell us that you'd like to be involved, because we would definitely plan to be active on that with Senators Schumer and Gillibrand, for sure.
And we should invite all our other sister activist groups.
Absolutely.
Because this is an intersectional moment.
Right.
And you know what?
Right.
Every other issue area, look, the world is already here.
Right.
And there are people from some of these from not only the country we're talking about, but some of the very countries that are in our concern, that we need to change the way the U.S. engages the negative way they engage.
Absolutely.
It is that others in other issue areas need to see the connection.
Right.
Again, that money piece, the monies that ascribe to their issue area is one way, but there are people already in their groups who are coming from these countries, and I feel like it's one thing to work for justice here, and then look back at your home, and the injustice that's being done is by the country here, and then not have allies here work with you to change that dynamic. Right. See, our behavior is too narrowly focused in this country about getting things right for us, which is fine, but we have to look at our international footprint. See, we can have good policy that's here in the country, but if our policy doesn't pay attention to how it allows us to play around the world, that's why the War Powers Act is very important. And not only that, that is why any legislation that we pass, that it be enforced and not changed in the middle of the night or suddenly because for some political points. We're talking about people's lives.
Well, that's why I also talk about the other unifying factor is the principles and the spirit. So that spirit of compassion, right? Caring, as you said, Jim. And also just the principle of nonviolence, or back to, the things that are embedded, at least in principle, in this country, that is supposedly what it is founded. It is what it's founded on, along with a bunch of hypocrisy also was in there. But, those things do unify all of these issues, because they are interrelated and interconnected, because we are all interrelated and interconnected. So I want to, before, and we're getting on the shorter side on the show. So before we get before we run out of time, I wanted to ask you too, Hassan, about some of the other things that you're working on, because I know you are. And as you said, especially, we're saying all of these issues are interrelated and interconnected, especially for the immediate issues in the Middle East are all interrelated and interconnected. So you want to talk a little bit about that and things that people might be able to do on some of those issues?
Yeah, so, again, I see this as all interconnected.
It
here.
is.
All
Absolutely.
of these pieces
Yep.
are just, kind of bumping up. But I am very narrow in focus. I think we also have to be strategic. We have
Sure.
limited resources.
Right.
I work in Washington, D.C. every one of me doing peace lobbying, there's probably like 500 to 1,000 military-industrial complex lobbyists, or Saudi lobbyists or UAE lobbyists.
Right. Right.
But my message of hope for people right now is that when we do things in public, we actually win. Our side wins, and we've won time and time again on Yemen. And when Congress reasserts itself, when the grassroots gets engaged, I've seen them start to agree to ceasefires. I've seen them stop bombing each other. I've seen them actually draw down their military forces in different parts of the country. So I think we should just, as a peace community, let's prove we can win something and then build our movement from there.
Right.
If we can win and we can end this war, and I think we can. I think we've been pounding away at this. This is just a critical moment. And if we can win this one, we can do anything. I really think. I think we've got the wind at our backs at that point. So I would urge that while we can understand all of the different connections that are going on, I think we need to, get focused, really get this Yemen War Powers resolution passed, and then kind of really take a look at what else we need to do together to end all these crises. And I love the saying. I don't know who coined this or who, but that intersectionality, I think is often used as a noun or a descriptor word. I think it's an action word. I think it's a verb. And that means that you show up for other movements as well.
Yeah.
So as we're trying to build our peace movement, which we have to do, let's get a mature peace movement. Let's, we already have, let's work towards a mature labor movement, a mature women's movement, a mature climate change movement, a mature anti-racism movement.
Right.
And then
Absolutely.
so let's build up all these movements to start pushing back against the neo-fascism, authoritarianism that's creeping. It's creeping fast. So so again, let's win on Yemen, and then the peace movement can build from the momentum of that and start contributing to this larger narrative and conversation. And I think we have a big role to play in bringing people together.
Well, I have to say that's one thing that the Western New York Peace Center really, because it was founded by Dr. King as part of the clergy and laity concerned, and also because our mission is peace through justice at home and abroad. We do really focus on the interrelatedness, and yet I think you're right about there's we need to be strategic, and we need to use focused energy. So that making progress, stopping the war in Yemen will help us to then maybe get the Iran deal, and will help us to finally get some justice and peace for our Palestinian brothers and sisters. And meanwhile, we work in Buffalo. We can't help, especially as living in Buffalo, that talking about everything as labor, women's movement, and certainly our black brothers and sisters that have been literally under attack, that have literally had a just a massive tragedy and massacre. And back to black and brown peoples all over the world, people of color all over the world, women all over the world, people, LGBTQ people, so it's back to oppressed people, that interest in back to the principles of, life and liberty and respecting, cooperating. Again, talking about communication and cooperation should get us, those are principles to use for very pragmatic negotiating. That really needs to happen. And, and back to true negotiations that are peace-oriented and that are going forward, that aren't just weapons sales plans, is got to be what we need.
It is what we need, and you need the critical mass to make it happen. One of the games, politicians play. Hey, look, even when we lobby them, they can welcome you in, but if you're not really from their district, they don't really work because they'll bamboozle us, and that's what we're doing now. What we've been doing for far too long with our politicians. We keep going. We go as almost as individual units, and they just, they sidebar because they're not a great mass of concern showing up in their community. And unfortunately for peace, no, we don't draw a lot of people out. It's not because of us per se. It is mainly because the issue is, look, this issue for a lot of people, they don't want to hear about it. Because of me, you have to do something beyond talk. And there's some people who are not ready to commit to that. But even without them committing to it, they need to understand the true situation. So they got to hear a report.
Right.
And that should begin to stir them forward. Look, people are so undernourished in keeping up with what our foreign policy is like, that even as we tell them about the things that flare up, they almost act like they can't believe it. They almost don't know what to do because they're so weakening and so unknowing. That's the work of the peace community to inform, to keep the message out there while it's pushing forward. But when we pushing forward into the lobbying and pushing our elected, we should be pushing while we pull our people along with us to help push them.
Right.
Otherwise, they won't move. They play the numbers too. And if they've got a silent group, they want them to stay silent. We should wake everybody up. And that's a goal I want to do, wake everybody up. Because the accountability starts with the individual. A lot of people talk the game, but ain't nobody, not as many are doing the work in that. And so that's what I'm saying. I just think we need to keep doing that, calling people forward and modeling the behavior. The peace movement itself is showing in this continuation. Here's what we need to do. They're keeping an eye on it. So really, I would dare say, for anybody that wants to learn about these issues, the peace movement is like a college.
Right.
But an actual functional one, because you get in it, you'll be not only learning, but you'll be doing the work at the same time.
Right. Right.
You have to grow.
It's like a work-study program.
There you go. Yep.
Yeah.
Certainly. And it takes all of us. I mean, we need to, engage people and help them see what it has to do with them. And actually back to this, it's fun. It's fun to work. It feels good to work on things that we care about, work that's meaningful. So anyway, I want to say, we're really just about out of time. So I want to give you each an opportunity, to have a last word. I think we've talked a lot about how people, can get involved and what things people can do. But, just sort of a final thoughts for this moment. And so Jim and then Hassan, just briefly.
My final thought is this. Be delighted. This oncoming wave of our youthful generation, you heard said, that's not like your grandfather's generation. They're coming, they're the bearers of the new knowledge, the new skill, the new energy. And you know what? They are the front line of our future. Mm-hmm. So both people and planet, they are the front line of all of our future. We're still in there, but this oncoming wave of young people should keep us excited, and we should help them build a new world that they're seeking to build, because it'll work for all of us.
Twinkle that.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Hassan?
Thank you, Jen. You've taught me a lot. I remember meeting you early on in my peace action days back in 2017, and always really inspired by your work. I guess I would just, in the spirit of being strategic, being focused like a laser on what needs to happen, let's get this Yemen War Powers resolution passed to finally end support for this war that's helped kill nearly 500,000 civilians and driven million more to the edge of famine.
Right.
This is going to hasten Saudi Arabia's understanding that there is no military solution in Yemen and that the U.S. military is not going to be complicit in their war crimes anymore. It's going to send a message to Biden at this key moment that he needs to keep his promise to end blind support for a regime cracking down on dissidents like Jamal Khashoggi, jailing female activists in Saudi Arabia and destroying Yemen. And, I'm clear-eyed. The U.S. can't unilaterally bring about peace to Yemen, but it has to use its leverage to persuade Saudi Arabia and its proxies to finally end this war. Because frankly, we got other stuff to do.
Right.
We got to end this war. We got to get this country back on track, and then work on building this multiracial, diverse movement that's going to help transform this country. I still have a lot of hope. There's a lot of bad news, but you know what? We're tough, and when the going gets tough, the tough get going.
Right. Amen to that. Amen. 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 And, crisis equal to opportunity. So, things change when things get transformed very quickly. So anyway, I couldn't be more grateful to both of you. This has been a great show, a great opportunity for people to learn both what's going on and what we can do, and how we can make progress for Yemen, for ourselves, for all of us, for the people on the planet. So I just can't thank you both enough. And so this is Talking Peace, and together we've been talking peace in truth and love. Thank you so very much. That's a wrap.
Thank you for that conversation, Vicky. Great to hang, Jim.
Stay strong and have a good time as we head over these few days. And boy, I wish I was in Washington now. We're hanging out with you and Kate.
Oh, sure.
Let's kick it.
Well,
I got a guest bedroom.
I mean, I love this story. Did you ever hear that Molly Ivins told a story where, and it's in a way, I don't know what to say, except she said this longtime activist, he was passing away, and somebody said, what do you want people to know about your life, about your work as an activist? And he said, tell them how much fun we had, because it is, it's loving relationships with people and working on something you feel good about, and then it's going to be really fun when we win.
Yeah.
Because we will.
I mean, some of the terribleness we see in the world is because of our lack of learning the lesson we need to learn. If we start ending war, in fact, if we deal with the Yemen situation, that is a bigger plus to say, you know what, we'll be more effective around this Ukraine situation.
Everything.
We need to get that stopped. But it's hard to go somewhere else when you haven't done what you need to do where you're at already.
Yeah. Speaking of being strategic, I'm going to get down there, hang out with Kate before she leaves.
Do. Okay. Well, much
let's
love.
Do this again, y'all. Take
care. Thanks a jillion. Bye for now. Give her a big hug from us.
Dig it.
So that's that.